imagine being 28 years old. And the people who were supposed to love you most have spent your entire life telling you that you are not enough. Not smart enough. Not impressive enough. Not worth the same investment as your sister. Now imagine sitting in a gilded ballroom. 350 people around you. And your own father, standing at a microphone, officially erasing you from his life. In front of everyone. But what he didn't know was that someone had been watching. Someone had been planning. And that same night, a stranger walked across that ballroom and handed her an envelope that would change everything. This is Dulce's story. And I promise you, by the end of this, you will never look at the word slow the same way again. The Whitfords were old money Manhattan. The kind of family whose name appeared on hospital wings and museum plaques. Gerald Whitford ran a commercial real estate empire worth $92 million. But Gerald didn't build it. His mother did. Eleanor Whitford. One office. One secretary. Brooklyn, 1965. 60 years of relentless, brilliant work. Gerald inherited it. And that difference, between building something and inheriting it, mattered more than anyone realized. Dulce was born with dyslexia. When she tried to read, the letters would swim. Rearrange themselves. Turn simple sentences into puzzles that took her 3 times longer to solve than anyone else. So what did her family do? For her sister Miranda, violin lessons at Juilliard. French immersion classes. SAT prep with a Princeton graduate charging $400 an hour. For Dulce? Her mother just sighed. We've already spent so much on specialists. At some point, we have to accept that some children just aren't academic. She was 12 years old. And she believed her. So Dulce taught herself. Audiobooks became her lifeline. She developed visual notes, diagrams, flowcharts, because when words failed her, pictures never did. And every Sunday afternoon, she would take the train to her grandmother Eleanor's apartment. And Eleanor would sit with her for hours. Not with textbooks. With stories. Dulce, she told her once, her weathered hand covering hers. You read slower than most. But you see things others miss. That's not a disability, sweetheart. That's a different kind of vision. Then came Christmas 2018. 20 relatives. Crystal chandeliers. The annual performance of Whitford family perfection. Gerald stood at the head of the table, wine glass raised. Miranda has been accepted to Harvard Law School. Full scholarship. Applause. Cheers. Miranda blushed with practiced modesty. Then Gerald's gaze drifted down the table. To Dulce. The warmth in his voice evaporated. And Dulce. He paused. Well. Dulce is also here. A few relatives chuckled. Soft, uncomfortable laughs. Miranda laughed along with them. Dulce stared at her plate. The roasted lamb blurred through the tears she refused to let fall. Under the table, a hand found hers. Thin fingers. Papery skin. Eleanor. She didn't say a word. She just held on. But her eyes were fixed on her son with something that looked almost like fury. Dulce graduated and applied for a position at Whitford Properties. She wanted to prove she could contribute. That the family business could be her path too. Gerald agreed to hire her. Her title? Administrative assistant. Her salary? $42,000 a year. That same month, Miranda joined as chief legal counsel. Her salary? $280,000. Plus bonuses. Dulce's job was to photocopy documents. Book conference rooms. Fetch coffee for executives who never learned her name. But she watched. And she listened. And she discovered something about herself in those long, invisible hours. She could see patterns. When executives talked in hallways, she would mentally sketch the relationships between parties, the flow of money, the hidden conflicts, the connections nobody else noticed. The same skill she had developed to survive her dyslexia had quietly become something extraordinary. Eleanor had once told her, "Your father reads contracts like a lawyer. He looks for what he can exploit. You read them like an architect. You see how all the pieces connect." And that same afternoon, years ago, Eleanor had handed her a small wooden box. Mahogany. Brass hinges. "Keep this safe. Don't open it yet. When you need it, you'll know." April 2024. An email arrived. Subject line, Position Restructuring. Confidential. Dear Ms. Whitford, your current position will be eliminated. Effective July 1st. She read it 3 times. The letters swam, rearranged, settled back into the same devastating message. That evening she stayed late. And through the thin wall separating her cubicle from her father's corner office, she heard them. "Gerald and Priscilla. We can't have her here when Miranda takes over. It looks bad. The CEO's sister working as a secretary. And her mother, soft and terrible, we've done everything we could for her. Some children just don't have what it takes. $42,000 a year. A studio apartment in Queens with 2 roommates. No savings. No safety net. If she lost this job, she'd be homeless within 2 months. But the money wasn't what tightened her chest. It was the realization settling into her bones like frost: if she accepted their version of who she was, she would spend the rest of her life as the family failure. Not because she had actually failed, but because she had never been given the chance to succeed. May 15, 2024. The Plaza Hotel. Grand Ballroom. 350 guests. A 12-piece orchestra. Miranda's graduation party. Gerald took the stage. Champagne flute raised. Effective immediately, Miranda Whitford will inherit my entire estate. Our Park Avenue residence, valued at $13 million. And most importantly, the position of CEO of Whitford Properties when I retire. The room erupted. Standing ovation. 350 people celebrating. And not one of them glanced at table 27. The table by the service entrance, partially hidden behind a pillar, where Dulce sat in a $79 dress, the most she could afford. Then, through the crowd, a silver-haired man in a gray suit began walking toward her. Slowly. Deliberately. Like he had been waiting for this exact moment. "Miss Whitford. My name is Jonathan Ellis. I was your grandmother's lawyer." He reached inside his jacket and produced a cream-colored envelope. Heavy stock. Red wax seal. "This is your grandmother's will. The real one. The one your father doesn't know exists." September 12, 2019. 5 months after Eleanor had watched her son erase her granddaughter at a Christmas dinner. She had seen everything. And she had been planning ever since. Dulce read the will in a service hallway while the orchestra played inside. "To my granddaughter, Dulce and Whitford, I bequeath 51% of my shares in Whitford Properties LLC. Along with all voting rights associated therewith. 51%. Controlling interest. $47 million. And Eleanor had written, "Dulce is not slow. Dulce was abandoned. And I will not allow her father's prejudice to continue after my death. 72 hours to act. Or the will became void." May 18, Whitford Tower. 42nd floor. Dulce walked in wearing a borrowed blazer 2 sizes too big and a leather portfolio she bought at Goodwill for $12. Gerald saw her in the hallway. "Dulce. Go back to your desk. This doesn't concern you." Then a voice came from inside the boardroom. Margaret Coleman. 72 years old. Board member for 32 years. The woman who had built half of Brooklyn alongside Eleanor. I invited her. She has standing. Let her in. Inside, Gerald tried everything. He called her unqualified. Miranda mentioned her dyslexia with a sympathetic shrug. They called it a revenge fantasy. A family breakdown. And Dulce placed the will on the table. She played the recording of Gerald trying to strip his own mother of voting power because she was, in his words, too old to understand modern business. She read every document. Clearly. Carefully. The letters still swam, but she forced them into focus. One word at a time. The board's legal counsel spent 45 minutes on the phone verifying everything. And then he returned and whispered in the chairman's ear. The chairman set down his glasses. The will is valid under New York state law. It supersedes all previous documents. Effective immediately, Dulce and Whitford holds 51% of Whitford Properties shares. A vote of confidence was called. 7 hands went up. No confidence. Gerald stood. And for the first time in her life, he looked at her. Really looked at her. Not with dismissal. Not with contempt. With recognition. The understanding that he had underestimated her so completely, he had lost everything. He walked out without a word. Dulce didn't fire him. She gave the board the power to decide. Because revenge isn't justice. And destroying someone doesn't undo what they did to you. Today she lives in Brooklyn Heights, in an apartment with a view of the bridge her grandmother crossed every morning on her way to her first office in 1965. Her mother calls. Her father calls. Miranda and she get coffee on weekends, learning each other for the very first time. The relationships are damaged. But they are honest. Which is more than they ever were. On her wall hangs Eleanor's portrait, the same one that watched over that boardroom for 40 years. Eleanor didn't leave her 51% because she was better than Miranda. She left it because she knew power would not corrupt her. Dyslexia made her slow in their eyes. But it also made her see. See patterns. See systems. See people. The very thing they used to dismiss her was the thing that saved her. If you have ever been the overlooked one, the dismissed one, the one they said would never amount to anything, hear this. You do not need their approval to know your own worth. You never did.